Hey Salut Friends, today I'm sharing what I consider to be the 5 best designer exclusive collections. Obviously it refers to the higher end collection that designers do apart from their mainstream wider releases. This year alone I noticed this bombardment of new designer exclusive lines being launched from brands like Paco Rabanne, Valentino, Coty and Fendi with a considerable number of fragrances. Even Montblanc did a mid-range collection launch, Estee Lauder with their Legacy collection. Not sure how much time and care went into those. They even shared perfumers from big flavoring companies, so there is probably going to be overlap in materials which can give a sense of sameness. Not to mention the pricing on these has been ridiculous. Not sure who is even going to buy these at retail. This just made me think, what do designer exclusives even mean anymore when there is no sense of said exclusivity? Before getting into the actual list of houses, I will recap the criteria for a designer exclusive that I laid out in my review of Yves Saint Laurent Tuxedo. First is an impressive scent profile above the mainstream releases. One thing you can do with your exclusive collection is to experiment and explore scent profiles without too much pressure on the volume of sales, market tests, etc. So the perfumers can be more creative without the same limitations they would have with an otherwise signature release. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they all should be smoky, animalic oud fragrances, but there has to be something interesting, even if it's kind of a scent profile that's been done a lot, like a rose or a vanilla. You can aim to create a higher grade of those notes or just explore a new dimension that is not so familiar. Second is higher quality. When you have an exclusive collection that is supposed to be for people who are more seriously into the artistic side of fragrances and interested in what the designer brand has to offer. Plus, when you're competing with niche fragrances, the quality also needs to be on a higher level accordingly, especially for the price. Speaking of which, third is the price. Sure, it's obvious that they're going to be higher than the signature fragrances as a consequence of the first 2 points that I mentioned, but they are designer fragrances at the end of the day with a large economy of scale, and in some cases the brands are vertically integrated, so the production costs should be relatively less. It's not a stretch to expect a reasonable pricing. Since the virus from 2020, the factor has been completely thrown out of the window. It feels more and more like brands are trying to play the exclusivity, image, aspiration game, trying to one-up each other to the point that many people have been priced out. And yet the prices keep on increasing every year, sometimes twice a year. Won't be a surprise if a bottle of designer exclusive is $1,000 or euros in the next 5 to 8 years. With all that being said, let's take a look at the list of brands that I enjoy for their exclusives. This is very much a time-sensitive list with an emphasis on the recent past and consistency over the years, so it would have been different 5 years ago and could probably be different 5 years from now. A few mentions. I like sampling some ouds from Cartier's Les Heures Voyageuses collection some time ago, but need to spend more time if I can get my hands on them again. Louis Vuitton has a couple of good ones, Ombre Nomade being my favorite. Most others feel too designerish for me. Same with Gucci, a Midnight Stroll I liked, rest I don't care for. Bois d'Encens from Armani too I like. Last mention is Celine's Haute Parfumerie collection. I really like night clubbing and will probably end up buying a bottle sometime in the future for a discount. It's just that they feel derivative of Hedi Sliman's previous work and too calm for my taste. Still probably the best from those I mentioned here. I've tested some others like Bulgari, Versace and Ferragamo in passing, but nothing has really impressed me as of now. With all that being said, now let's get into the actual list. I have positives and negatives to say about all of them, so not to worry. Also, I'll just showcase one fragrance from each house as a representation. Starting at number 5 is Tom Ford's Private Blend. This line, if you ask me in 2015, 2016, which is when I got into the hobby, I would have said number 1, undisputed winner, no debate. Such an aspirational collection. But I've mentioned this before, it feels like I missed the train on Tom Ford. Not intentionally, but just the natural timing and how the sequence of events in my life unfolded. In 2007, when this collection was launched, I was still a kid in middle school in India. By the time I came to Europe and got into the hobby, it was already too late. Many from this collection were tough to get, discontinued, or just completely out of my price bracket. I still remember it was all the rage at the time and being completely attracted by the sleek style, the sexualized marketing, and the bold scent profiles. Easily one of the best debut launches of a collection. If only I could find a scent time portal by any chance to go back and get some of those. Anyway, still, why did it end up here? It's because of their lack of consistency. Can't remember the last great release from this collection. Their reformulations, discontinuations, and insane price increases. Having no in-house perfumer has not helped either. I have not liked many of their fresh, fruity releases. Still, what a fantastic, memorable collection of scents. Very good at doing these dark, modernized, ambre scent profiles, be it Tobacco Vanille, Tobacco Oud, Amber Absolute, Noir de Noir, Santal Blush, and many other discontinued gems. The one I chose to represent here is Tuscan Leather, which is arguably the most influential contemporary leather fragrance. That fruity opening from the raspberry, drying down to this addictive saffron and this ambre ashtray leather is just absolutely a statement maker. To this day, any leather fragrance has raspberry in it, it gets compared to this. That's how influential it has become. Obviously cloned and copied hundreds of times at this point. Really a standout in this amazing collection of fragrances within the Private blend. At number 4, it is Guerlain. Sure, I agree Guerlain is not technically a designer brand. Still, I think it is appropriate to put them here because of how their collections are structured and organized. Here I am referring to the Arts and Materials collection, of course, starting from 2007. They focus on one key raw material and try to highlight it. That's really the concept. Started with multiple perfumers getting their hands on creating the releases, from Annick Minardeau to Francis Coujean, Olivier Polge, and Daniela Andrier, even Jean-Paul Guerlain after the sale to LVMH. Later, the in-house perfumers Delphine Gelc and Thierry Vasset started to do them. Initially focused on vanillic fragrances like Spiritueuse Double Vanille, Angélique Noir, Cuillère Beluga, Neroli Outre Noir, and of course Bois d'Harmonie, which is my current favorite from this line. This soft benzoin woody balsamic scent inspired by Papier d'Harmonie, created by Annick Minardeau. Some of the finest crafted vanilla fragrances out there, though they can be a little too soft and not exciting at times. Then they changed the bottles and did all sorts of modifications, reintroducing fragrances under a different name and so forth, with completely different scent profiles. I think the last notable release from this line was Iris Torréfiée. After that, I feel like they lost focus and started doing almost random releases, including 3 ouds, in spite of having another collection dedicated to that. Though none of the new releases are straight up bad, they have not really made an impression on me. The insane pricing does not help either, which is a recurring theme in this video, driving away even the core fans of the house. Last year, they released 6 extraits de parfum as well, which were even more unattainable. So in summary, a very good chic collection of fragrances, of course with the prestige and historical significance associated with Guerlain. But lately, there have been more misses than hits. Alright, at number 3 is Dior Collection Prive, launched in 2004. It is the first private collection I got into. I think they are a nice bridge for that. Launched with the trilogy of Bois d'Argent, Eau Noire, and Corogne Blanche under Eddie Slimane. They did not have an in-house perfumer at the time. Then François Desmarchis redid all the fragrances, launching some of his own. Some amazing stuff in the line, balancing the bold artistic side, still maintaining the wearability factor. Be it Ambre Nuit, Mitza, Gris Dior, Leather Oud, Oud d'Espagne. I really like this collection and still do. Bois d'Argent being my personal favorite. The silvery iris woody myrrh combo is just absolutely magical, really within the playbook of Annick Minardeau. Though it is a modern release, just reeks of elegance, old money, and heritage. Easily one of my favorite fragrances of all time. I could have easily made a case for them to be number one before 2014. Since then, though, they seem to have changed their philosophy, which does not fully appeal to me. It seemed like they just dumped a lot of mid, fruity, floral scents, trying to satisfy different market segments without any consistency or motivation. Felt like new release for the sake of it. Went close to 50 releases at one point. In the middle, they also reformulated a lot of them around 2016. And then when they realized something is not doing the numbers they expect, immediate discontinuation. Francis Cookjean took over from Demachi in 2021. I believe he has not done anything better either, other than relaunching some fragrances like Eau Noire, which has been discontinued for a second time. Also did a couple of completely forgettable scents like Dior Riviera and the new look. This collection used to be a fair value proposition as well, with the 125, 250 ml bottles and so forth. But the pricing has since gone up a lot, and now they are about to launch concentrated parfum versions of their fragrances to compensate for the watering down for God knows how much. I will still check them out. I'm curious. A really iconic collection of fragrances, just not at their best form at the moment. At number 2 is the Hermès collection from Hermes, starting from 2004. Must have been quite a time that between 2004 and 2007 with all these fragrances launching. This line is pretty much the creative outlet for one man, and that is their in-house perfumer at the time, Jean-Claude Ellena. I have said this before, but I think Hermes is the most consistent designer house probably ever. To this day, there is not one release I would consider to be a complete dud. I may not like the smell itself, but the craftsmanship and quality control cannot be denied. Out of the three houses so far, Hermes is one which has a definite signature that is present in most of their fragrances, even outside the Hermes house. You can draw connecting threads from their very first release, Eau de Hermes, to something like Épice Marine by Ellena, to Parac by their current in-house perfumer, Christian Nagel. It started with many effortless, elegant scents such as Osman Nan, Vetiver Tonka, Rose Kibana. In between some experimental creations like Poivre Samarkand and Paprika Brazil. They are considered to be short, minimalistic creations like haikus as per Ellena. I like the sort of ode to nature and different places around the world idea they have. Still feel extremely modern, whether it be the pairing of two notes or avoiding traditional constructions like a patchouli amber base, still doing transparent eau de toilette, etc. They took some time to fully grow on me, I have to admit, but such a fantastic collection. Even the ones by Christine Nagel like Mère Galantine, Cedra Sambac, Agar Riben, and Violet Velinka have been good. Cuir d'Ange here being my current favorite. Just this heavenly, ethereal, floral leather fragrance. As for drawbacks, one I did not care much for was Vanille Gallant. Some of them can take that transparency a little too far. Something like Bon de Réglisse. Lovely scent, but gone in 30 minutes. They did this oud recently called Oud à Lison, which felt like playing catch-up, which I didn't have time for. Then there are these two 25 ml oils that they have, which cost 400 plus euros. Their Cardamusk is probably the best cardamom fragrance that I've ever smelled, but it's absolutely not worth the price. So yeah, overall a great collection. They have never done discontinuations until recently. Also, will they do concentration changes of their EDTs to EDPs and jack up the price even more? We shall wait and see. Next up at number 1, not a surprise if you have watched my videos, it's the Lace exclusive collection from Chanel. If someone came up to me and said, I want to try the most traditional French perfumery, I will send them to two collections. One would be the Guerlain Legendary collection and the second would be the Lace exclusives. Sure, they can be classic, cold and standoffish for some people, but I find them so well made and emotionally resonant. They are fit to be called perfumes rather than fragrances, reflecting events, years, places from the life of Gabrielle Chanel, with this turning the pages of a novel sensation they have. No discontinuations so far with the main line, even with the reconcentration from EDT to EDP. technically the oldest exclusive collection with fragrances released in the 1920s and so on, and yet the most integrated line with a specific style and palette of materials, be it iris or the floral bouquet with rose, jasmine, ylang, and even the musks, patchouli and sandalwood. Again, a very consistent line, still sticking the landing with their newest releases. Le Lion and Comet have been able to maintain the stature of the overall collection, even becoming the favorites for some people, which cannot be said for many other collections as they peak early and start to decline with time. The integrity has been held up by the perfumers as well, be it Henri Robert, Jacques or Olivier Polge, hopefully Olivier Polge's son as well. I've done a dedicated video on the entire line of exclusives, so I won't go further here, but it does have some of my all-time fragrances like Coromandel, Cuir de Russie, and the one representing here being 31 Rue Cambon. This floral neo-chypre decked out in iris and capturing the couture side of the house. As for drawbacks, there are many. The current attitude of the management in public is despicable. Second, as special as Chanel fragrances are, they are also special when it comes to price increases, which I have no doubt will reach 4 digits sooner than we think. Some may feel they are feminine leaning, but I have no problems with that. Lastly, the Extrait de Parfum in 15 ml, which was scandalous. Beautiful fragrances to smell close by, but I find them impractical for wearing, and they charged insane prices for that. No wonder they are discontinued. So yeah, overall my favorite designer exclusive collection, but still has its problems. To wrap up with these newer exclusive fragrance launches being done in a hurry, I'm really skeptical if they will be any good. Talk of oversaturation. These brands are really trying to compete with niche fragrances in terms of pricing, which is another rabbit hole by itself. That gap is certainly closing faster in the last 5 years. The consequence is that the mainstream releases are getting worse and worse. It seems we are going back to the early 1900s where good perfumes will only be for the ultra-rich elites. Will that materialize, and when this bubble will burst before history repeats itself? We will wait and watch how these events play out. So there you have it, my thoughts on designer exclusives and my 5 favorites. Thanks for watching, take care and ciao.